Israel's Prime Minister is headed to the United States for yet another meeting with President Trump. Now, this will be Netanyahu's fifth meeting with President Trump since he took office in January and will take place at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. Netanyahu is also scheduled to meet with the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Now, these meetings are expected to focus on the fragile ceasefire in Gaza, also talking about Gaza's future, and the fast rebuilding threat of Hezbollah and Iran. The U.S. is pushing Israel to move on to the second phase of the ceasefire deal in Gaza, even though Hamas has still not returned all of the hostages. The body of Ran Gvili is still being held by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Phase 2 of the ceasefire deal includes the creation of an international board of peace, which would be chaired by President Trump himself, and reported to include countries like Italy, Germany, Britain, Turkey, Qatar, and Egypt. Also included in Phase 2 of the deal is the establishment of an ISF, an International Stabilization Force. The purpose of the ISF would be to uphold the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. This would mean that many countries would send troops to Gaza to uphold the ceasefire. This is probably not a realistic solution for the Gaza Strip, as historically international peacekeeping forces have rarely ever done anything to actually keep the peace when it comes to countries or terror organizations that are coming to attack Israel. They generally just hightail it out of there. Also, Israel is very hesitant about certain countries like Turkey, for example, of being part of this force and having actual troops in Gaza. Now, Turkey has expressed willingness to send troops to the Gaza Strip, thus the concern for Israel. And this definitely seems to be a non-starter for Israel's government. Turkey literally hosts Hamas leaders and is in no way on friendly terms with Israel. Having Turkish troops in the Gaza Strip is not only a threat to Israel, but also not a threat to Hamas, which should be what this peacekeeping force is. Turkey definitely seems to have very close ties with Hamas terrorists. One would think that any peacekeeping force should be a threat to those who want to disturb peace and friends to those who wish for peace, right? Now, there's much debate on whether or not this ISF force would actually confront Hamas or just be there to stop Israel from defending itself against these terrorists. This remains to be seen, but moving the ceasefire forward to the second phase of the 20-point deal that Trump laid out definitely seems to be a big priority to the U.S. administration right now. And some administration officials are running out of patience with Bibi. According to an Axios report on Friday, Trump's team believes that Netanyahu is delaying the Gaza ceasefire framework and could ultimately resume the war against Hamas. Now, these same officials seem to turn a blind eye to the fact that Hamas has violated many times the ceasefire already and still has not returned all the hostages as per the agreement in Phase 1 of the deal. Also, Hamas has been retaking firm control over the 47% of Gaza that the IDF pulled out of in Phase 1. They have been destroying the rival clans that were attempting to work with Israel to create a governing force outside of Hamas in Gaza. It is clear that the reality on the ground in Gaza is much different than the officials in the White House think that it is. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner's dream of building a Dubai-style metropolis in Gaza is just wishful thinking so long as Hamas exists anywhere in the Gaza Strip. We'll get into more of this in just 1 second, but first, if you're a Christian who believes in standing with the nation of Israel, I've got something important to tell you. In 2025, we here at the Israel Guys have reached over 20 million people with the truth about Israel. We have been privileged to bring in nearly 200 volunteers to the mountains of Israel's heartland to connect them with the events of the Bible unfolding right before their eyes. We are privileged to put our hands in the soil and to sweat on behalf of the restoration of this land. But this task takes more than just sweat. Our operations cost money, the videos we produce, the heavy machinery, the equipment, operating costs, it all costs something. If you believe in the covenant that God made with Israel, if you believe that God has a plan for the Jewish people to prosper in their land, If you believe the mountains of Judea and Samaria should be restored and reclaimed for Israel, then join us. We have generous donors who are willing to match any gift giving through the end of December, so anything you give will be doubled for twice the impact. When you put directly into the building up of the land of Israel, it means more trees, more vines, more cattle, more sheep, more flourishing Jewish communities being built up in the land of Israel. Now, we only have 2 more days to meet our goal, so please help us if you want to make a real difference in the land of Israel today. Just go to theisraelguys.com/double or click the link in the description below. Other items of discussion for Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago today and tomorrow are the rebuilding of weapons by Hezbollah in Lebanon and Iran's race to replenish their supply of ballistic missiles and launchers. Both of those pose a massive threat to the state of Israel, and if not dealt with seriously, could mean a lot more destruction to the nation of Israel. Meanwhile, Hezbollah refuses to disarm as per the ceasefire agreement, which stipulated that Hezbollah was to disarm or withdraw from south of the Litani River in southern Lebanon. The good news is that Israel is scaling up their defensive weapons to protect the Jewish state from such threats. Finally, after years and years of work, on Sunday this week, the Defense Ministry handed over the first operational high-power laser interception system called the Iron Beam to the IDF. Now, it has been used successfully to intercept missiles and drones in past attacks in the testing phase, but now it will be fully integrated into the IDF's defense systems. Defense Minister Israel Katz said that it's, quote, the first time in the world that a high-power laser interception system has reached operational maturity, and it changes the rules of the game and sends out a clear message to all our enemies: do not test us. The laser system in Hebrew is being called Or Eitan, which is translated to Eitan's light, in memory of Captain Eitan Oster, an IDF soldier who was killed fighting Hezbollah in southern Lebanon in October of 2024. At the delivery ceremony, Eitan's father, who was actually one of the system's developers, recited the Shehechianu blessing. Now, the Iron Beam system isn't designed to take the place of the Iron Dome or Israel's other air defense networks. Instead, it works alongside them, designed specifically for smaller projectiles where larger threats are handled by these stronger missile systems like David's Sling and the Aero Missile Defense System. As Israel ramps up defense from outside attacks, they're still facing a war raging inside of Israel with Arab terror. Last week, there was yet another deadly terror attack in Israel. Innocent Jews were killed by a Palestinian Arab simply because they were Jews. I'm so sick of reporting about Jews being killed simply because they are Jews in the land of Israel. When will the world wake up and condemn this for what it really is, this evil, and support Israel to do everything they need to, first of all, defend themselves, but also to eradicate this evil? On Friday afternoon, a 37-year-old Palestinian Arab from a town close to Jenin, who was illegally working inside of Israel proper, rammed his car into a 16-year-old boy on Route 71 in northern Israel, lightly injuring him. Then, he rammed into a 68-year-old man, unfortunately killing him. The man was identified as Mordechai Shimshon from the town of Beit She'an. The terrorist then fled towards the city of Afula, where he rammed into and then stabbed a 19-year-old girl, killing her on the spot. The girl's name was Aviv Maor from the nearby kibbutz Ein Herod. The terrorist then tried to run into another man, but hit a telephone pole. He got out of his car and tried to hit the man with a rock. Then he tried to flee from the scene, but was shot and wounded by a civilian. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu put out a statement sending condolences to the families of the victims and praising the heroic citizen who neutralized the terrorist. Following Defense Minister Israel Katz's instructions, the IDF raided the village of this terrorist, breaking into his home and arresting his father. They also mapped out his home in order to destroy it later. The crazy thing is that most of the world is standing in support of these very people who are hell-bent on killing Jews. When will the world wake up? The good thing is that despite this tragedy, there is more good happening in the land of Israel than evil. Restoration is taking place in the land of Israel, and the Jewish people, despite the challenges, are thriving. As promised by the prophets of the Bible, the nation of Israel is once again back in their land. Agriculture is flourishing on the mountains of Israel, and the landscape is beginning to turn back into the Garden of Eden. That is why we do what we do here at the Israel Guys, by volunteering here on the mountains of Israel to help bring about the agricultural restoration of the once barren landscape into what it is today. But we can't do it alone, and we need your help. If you want to support our work here at the Israel Guys, both with getting the truth out about Israel with these videos and the volunteer work we do, putting boots on the ground in Judea and Samaria, you can head over to theisraelguys.com/double and make a donation today. Remember, we only have 2 more days to meet our goal and launch into 2026 to be a successful year. Guys, as always, thanks for watching.